Hello, my name is Lorraine and I am a psychic and a medium. And I believe that it is my soul's purpose to bring forward spiritual guidance. I consider myself actually really a mystic, and I have spent my life, all of my adult life, decades now, on understanding the great mystery of life. I view this mystery of life through the lens of the Kabbalah, through metaphysics and esoteric teachings, and of occult teachings. And all of that I see also through the lens of the mind, of mental health, of understanding psychology. And so with that, I believe that I'm able to glean good insight as to the purpose of the soul's journey. And it came to me today as I was contemplating this, that the purpose really is self-mastery. And this may seem very simplistic in itself. The idea of self-mastery may seem something that doesn't hold any weight or water to it. But let me explain, because I view our experience here on the earth plane as a journey of the soul. And the soul is meant to grow and understand, really connect with its true nature, its divine nature. And in essence, we're all really fallen angels. We are all aspects of the divine that is incarnated, and we're having this earthly, very human experience. And it's through this experience that we're understanding and unfolding the essence of our soul. And it's through this growing of awareness. This is the process of enlightenment. This is the process of awakening and expanding consciousness. I want to think about this as sort of growing our consciousness, growing our awareness, and understanding the many, many aspects of our soul, and peeling back these layers that become clouding this soul essence. And that's the layers that of the ego, of the lower mind, that is experiencing this separateness to the divine. And so as we're understanding self-mastery and what does that mean and how do we go about doing that, it's important to understand the reason why you started, because you will start to understand the purpose of your soul, the purpose of your soul's journey, if you start to look at how you have expressed your life, what has pulled you on this physical journey. We start off seeking certain things, and that, we can get pulled away from that, because what happens is that we start to see it through the material lens, through the physical lens, but there is an initial drive of inspiration that comes from the soul. So we start to see this through an egoic interpretation, but the initial drive comes from the soul. So let's sort of put this as an example. Let's say that there is an innate drive to learn music, to be able to play an instrument, and that is a soul expression that the soul is wishing to have. Learning music and that expression through music, the expression of the soul essence through music. But where we may become off track in this example is if we start to think that music becomes a means to another end, which is perhaps fame or fortune. And that may happen to some people that pursue music, as an example. But the underlying inspiration was to learn music and to be able to play and have that as an expression of the soul. Where it may become distorted is that one may think that they're meant to become wildly famous, and then it becomes a trap of the ego. And we can see this actually in current times. We can see many very talented young musicians that have gone about creating and honing their craft of music and creation, and then become off track and start to live a life that is very detrimental to them, be it drugs or alcohol or toxic relationships. And this is because what's happened is that the ego has then stepped in and has taken them off their soul path. It's interpreted some of the inspiration, some of the soul guidance, and has really made it more material or mundane, instead of seeing it as something that's beautiful. And really it's sacred too. If we look at all of our actions as being sacred and an expression of the soul, then we will start to bring our soul essence into everything that we're doing. And we can make mundane acts even sacred and an expression of the soul when you start to be aware of your consciousness that is experiencing the present moment. It's important to remember that the ego mind is powerful, and it has this constant need to make itself aware and to take control of things. And so there's always this real need for the higher self, for the consciousness to be able to be aware of this. Be aware of when the ego has stepped in and has taken them off their path, which is the expression of the soul. So there's this constant refinement that needs to be experienced, and this constant reflection. I say this to students when I'm teaching mediumship and spiritual development, that self-reflection is a divine gift. It's a divine attribute. Not all of us have it. It can be cultivated, but a good many individuals choose not to use it. And so the reflection is a tool to be able to continue to develop the soul. And through this reflection, we're able to reconnect and recover these attributes of the soul and to get back on the soul path. But what happens is that because the ego stepped in and we're not having the true expression of the soul, it's been tainted or has some cloudiness to it, that it actually causes anxiety. It causes anxiety and a feeling of being unsettled, and that's because we are not being true to our soul. And this is really the source of all anxiety, is that we have lost touch with the essence of our soul, and sort of our energy is off kilter. Now, I'll go into this deeper in further podcasts, but it's just to be able to keep this in mind, that anxiety is really not being in tune with oneself, and not being aware or fully connected with that divine I am aspect. Now, many of us are wired differently too, neurologically. Our nervous systems can be very, very different. And so some nervous systems require a greater resetting in order to be able to have this flow from the soul and to be able to be in alignment with their physical self also. So that takes some additional work sometimes. But really endeavor to connect with yourself on a soul level. And what does that mean? Who are you? What are you? What are your qualities and traits? Reflecting, what are your shortcomings? And in order to be able to reconnect with your divine self, to be able to feel that vibration of your divine self, because we want to be able to get back. Everything really is vibration, it's energy, and reconnecting with ourselves with on a soul level is an energetic endeavor. So remember a time of happiness. You may have to really think back to recall it. Remember how it felt. Oftentimes this is when we are in our childhood or maybe even an early adulthood, but going back to a time where you felt really a sense of joy and happiness, and really allow yourself to embody that. For myself, that sense of joy and happiness is experiencing my children, giving birth to them, and experiencing them when they were young. That just pure joy and love of being. And that is the essence of your soul. When you are able to connect with that pure sense of joy and contentment, and that is being present, and that is being aware of your soul's nature, which is divine. It is loving, it is content, and it is at peace. And it's important to be able to learn how to tune back into that. So this is part of our learning, and sometimes there is karma here also. So if you're having a difficult time getting back into the touch of your soul, there may be some karma there. And karma is not something to be worried about or fearful of. Karma, we have the power to transmute it. Karma is really simply a lesson, a soul lesson that must be learned. But you'll start to see patterns in your life that can act as triggers. But it's these patterns that have come up. There is a karmic learning, an unfoldment that needs to be understood. And so this may be most probably something that needs to be learned from a past life. But it could be something that needs to be overcome from this present life that usually occurs early on, usually in childhood, that's created this lesson that needs to be learned because there's a certain aspect there that has to be acquired. I look at this as gates or initiations that we have to pass through in order to be able to get lost fragments of ourselves, to be able to unblock energy, and to be able to pass through a certain state of awareness or consciousness, which really, again, just brings us closer back to our divine, true soul nature.